This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed human.
Work can be a little weird. Cringy training seminars, coworkers who won't stop talking about their plant, forgetting the mute button at an inopportune moment. We have to deal with a lot on any given workday. Sometimes it can feel hard to thrive and move forward in your career. Well, that's where LinkedIn comes in. LinkedIn helps you get ideas and insights from experts in your field, connect with people professionally, grow your network, and access tools designed to help you find the right fit for your next role. Whether you're just getting started, figuring out your next move, or looking to accelerate your career, LinkedIn is built to support you at every stage because LinkedIn is the network that works for you. Visit linkedin.com/knowstuff to learn more. The springtime thaw is finally here. Flowers are blooming, days are longer. We're saying yes to more plans and finally getting outside, running, walking, just moving again. It's the perfect time to upgrade your everyday go-tos with Bombas. Take Bombas sport socks. They're super comfortable and designed with sport-specific tech for running, cycling, yoga, hiking, you name it. I use them to run in, and I can tell you they work beautifully. So head over to bombas.com and use code SYSK for 20% off your first purchase. That's BOMBAS.com, code SYSK at checkout.
Welcome to Stuff You Should Know, a production of iHeartRadio.
Das Vidanya, and welcome to the podcast. I'm Josh. There's Chuck. Jerry's here too. And this is Stuff You Should Know, comrade.
Yeah, the Tetris edition. How much Tetris have you played? What's your background there?
I was a very casual Tetris player. I mean, I didn't even realize there were as many levels as there are. I tend to flip out when things start to really go fast.
Uh-huh.
So I wasn't very good at Tetris, but I did enjoy it when I played it.
And where did you play it? Like what system?
On the NES, the classic NES.
Okay.
How about you, Chuck? What is your relationship to Tetris?
Well, the only way I ever played it was on a Game Boy. I don't know if I had a Game Boy, if it was Scott's. I know he had one, but at any rate, I played it on the Game Boy only and really, really loved it and got into that for a while.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't like obsessed with it or anything, but I did have the Tetris dreams. I did walk around seeing things as Tetris on the landscape. So it definitely invaded my consciousness for a while, but I never played it on anything but the Game Boy, so I don't know how to play it with a regular controller or whatever.
Yeah. I couldn't, I tried playing it on computer and I was like, I can't get this. I'm just used to the NES controller for it.
Yeah, I was going to try and play it today, just like whatever. I'm sure there's some free online version you can play on your desktop, but I was afraid. I was a little behind today. I was like, I'm not going to do it because I'll be 30 minutes later.
Right.
I will have still be playing Tetris because it's a very addictive game, and part of why it was successful is because it seems like everybody that ever tried Tetris, early on at least, loved and became pretty addicted to Tetris.
Yeah, I was asking Yumi, I was like, did you ever play Tetris? And she just kind of gave me this. She didn't even look over at me. She just looked at me out of the corner of her eyes and was like, I was pretty good at Tetris.
Yeah, I could see that.
Come on. I didn't ask her if she had the dreams, but I could see her having the dreams. Apparently, that's a really common phenomenon, right? I think it's actually called the Tetris effect.
Yeah, for sure. When it starts invading your dreams, or you start, if you're walking around a city and you start looking at an alleyway that you could drop a long I-beam into, then it's in your bones.
Yeah, for sure. We'll talk a little bit about why it's so addictive. People have come up with theories for it. Like, it's a video game that's so addictive. Psychologists have actually come up with theories to explain why Tetris in particular, not video games, Tetris in particular, has that Tetris effect and is so addictive, which should kind of give you an idea of why. I think we talked about this in our Minecraft episode where I got everything right, that Tetris is actually the best-selling game of all time.
Yeah.
Closing in on 550 million copies.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is a staggering number of people, man.
Right. And this video game hasn't been around since like the 1800s. Like, it's from 1984.
It's not Oregon Trail.
Right, exactly. You can't catch dysentery playing it.
No, and big thanks to Olivia for this one. I had this idea when I recently remembered that I had not watched the Tetris Cold War thriller movie that is a very loose sort of story about how this game was developed because it's a very interesting story set against the backdrop of the Cold War. They really it's a fictionalized version, so it sort of loosely follows some of it, but it looked like a really fun movie that I'd kind of forgot about. So I asked Olivia to put this together, and I'm going to watch the movie sometime this week, I think.
So is that huge chase scene where Alexei Pajitnov is chasing the CIA agents across rooftops in Istanbul and catches up with them and kills them with a garrote is made up?
I think it is. And he was throwing Tetris pieces at them and building Tetris walls. That's what the movie they should have done.
Yeah, for sure. That would have been pretty cool. He just like holds his hand out, and instead of a web coming out, it's Tetris pieces right in your face.
All right. So you mentioned a guy that's very key to this. In fact, he's the most key because he's the creator, Alexei Pajitnov. The year is 1984. Very big key year in American history in a lot of ways. And he was working at a place called the Jarodnitsin Computer Centra, which is a part of the Soviet Academy of Sciences. And he came up with this game that he originally called Genetic Engineering. Great name. Eventually would land on Tetris, but it was a copy initially of his favorite puzzle game when he was a kid called Pentomino.
I'm glad, yes, you said it. It took me a little while, and I was like, oh, like domino, but with 5.
Yeah, exactly. And it was like any other puzzle. It was a wooden box, and you had these pieces, 12 wooden tiles, each represented a different shape that can be made with 5 squares. And it was just a physical thing. It was in a rectangular horizontal box, and you would just, it was one of those puzzles where you would put the things in there, and it wouldn't make like an Elton John album cover. It would just fit, and you would be like, hey, I won. I fit all the pieces in here.
Right. So, he basically took that and adapted it into, he's like, well, I'm going to totally revolutionize this. I'm going to change the shapes from five boxes to 4. And so you can't call it pentomino anymore because penta is what, 5 in Greek or Latin, something like that? Right.
Yeah. 5 squares.
Yeah. So he called it Tetris, named after tetra. Yeah. The Greek prefix meaning 4. And apparently he also liked tennis and wanted to give tennis a little shout out. So that's what the is from. Tetra tennis, Tetris.
Yeah. Yeah, and this initial version, like I said, it was called Genetic Engineering, and at first it was just a horizontal, but he just basically did the exact same thing digitally that he had in his physical, sitting in his closet somewhere with Pentomino. It was a horizontal square with these pieces that you would, click. I don't know if you dragged at that point or not. Did they even have the mouse at that point?
I don't know.
Anyway, you could get it over into that box and fit it. The pieces didn't fly down, and they didn't disappear when you would complete a line like the classic Tetris. That would come later when he would make it a big, and that was sort of the key, basically, was he found that first version of genetic engineering was boring. And if he made it vertical, he made the pieces fall. And if he made those lines disappear as you went, that created this addictive quality that made Tetris.
That's it. Did you say that there weren't any graphics, that they were like characters and punctuation marks instead of graphics?
No.
So
yeah, that was the first version.
The whole thing was made up of brackets. Like each line was brackets, and like the pieces were like exclamation points or periods or greater than symbols. It was pretty primitive, rough first version, but yeah, it had kind of the bones to it. But it wasn't until you start clearing lines that's what Tetris is all about. So around the same time, he had a colleague called Dmitry Pavlovsky, was also working on games. And there was a 16-year-old involved, a young lad named Vadim Gerashimov, who was a summer intern and just happened to be at the right place at the right time. And the 3 of them got together with another guy, a psychologist named Vladimir Pokilko. And you put the 4 of them together and you have the earliest developers of Tetris.
Yeah, he was interested in doing puzzles in relation to his psychological experiments. Gerasimov and the other guy, Pavlovsky, were porting games over to IBM PCs, which a lot of people in the Soviet Union or not a lot of people, but that was sort of one of the main computers that they could have access to at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they had this idea like, hey, we might be able to like profit from this one day, but that's going to be a tricky thing because, you know, this is the Soviet Union and everything that we do belongs to state.
Yeah, that was a great Yakov Smirnov, by the way.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, so as we'll see, the developers, Pajitnov apparently was like, hey, you know, I think it'd be a great idea if the USSR owned the rights to this game that we developed for the first 10 years. What do you think? He had said that it was basically an impossible choice. Like if he didn't do that, they would cheat him out of it and he would probably be investigated by the KGB anyway. So he just went along with that. But before that ever happened, there was the game started to spread. We mentioned Pokilko. He was a psychologist and he took it to a copy to the Moscow Medical Institute where he worked and was like, hey, why don't you guys try playing this, see what you think? And apparently the workers played so often that they had to delete it from their computers because they just couldn't be trusted with Tetris on their computers to get their work done.
Yeah, that became kind of a common refrain in this story as it goes along, as more and more people are like, why are all my employees crowded around the computer monitor? And they would go in and find them playing Tetris. It spread to, like I said, IBM PC users in the Soviet Union, was copied onto floppy disks, transported across borders, and eventually a guy named Robert Stein, who owned a UK-based company called Andromeda Software, Ltd. He saw this in Hungary. He was like, hey, Hungary gave us the Rubik's Cube. Here's another puzzle game. This is pretty interesting to me. So in 1986, he realized that he had I guess he got a hold of a telex number that could reach Pajitnov, and he sent him a telex, and they started telexing back and forth saying like, hey, I'm interested in this. He ultimately got a reply that said, yes, we are interested. We would like to have this deal. And Stein didn't realize in broken Russian that just meant, yeah, let's keep talking. He thought that meant, hey, sounds like we have a deal.
Right. So he actually started creating copies of it, right? And getting ready to sell it in the West. Is that correct?
Yeah, here's where it gets a little confusing because this whole story about who has the rights gets really in the weeds. And what happened was Stein he thought they had a deal, so he started developing the launch of this thing because he thought he had a deal when he did not even have these rights. Like, they literally made a deal with a guy named Robert Maxwell, British newspaper mogul. There's a lot more to this guy than, we could probably do a whole episode on him. But he had a couple of companies, one called Spectrum Holobyte in the United States and one called Mirrorsoft in the UK, and he made licensing deals for PC and console rights with Mirrorsoft for the UK and Europe for £3,000 plus royalties, and then for Spectrum Holobyte for North America and Japan for $11,000 plus royalties when he didn't even own the rights to do so at this point.
Yeah, so apparently they were out there selling units, and then the Russians got word of this. Something called ELORG, Elektronorg Technica, which was the Soviet organization for developing things like games like Tetris, and then owning the rights to it. Got in touch with Stein and were like, hey, you can't do this anymore. Like, we own that. This is, even Cold War stuff says that this is wrong, you know?
Right. Yeah, so on January 29th, 88, Spectrum Holobyte released it in the U.S., and he didn't get his deal signed with ELORG because they weren't like, hey, shut this down, you can't do it. They said, hey, let's talk. He didn't get his actual deal signed with them until the end of February, so he was selling these things for a month in the United States before he even had a deal with ELORG, and at that point he got, I think, like a 10-year licensing deal from them. So it was all, that part of it was legit by this point.
Yeah, and at the time, it was almost $100 for a copy of Tetris for IBM and $68, these are in today's dollars, I should say, for the Commodore 64.
That's not cheap.
No, for sure not. But people were buying it because people liked it. And apparently also, Mirrorsoft made deals with Atari and Sega, too, to basically start producing Tetris cartridges for those consoles. And again, I think this was within that window where he didn't officially own any of the rights at the time.
Yeah, he didn't have those rights. So you could have, it gets a little confusing, but you can have like PC rights, but not rights to do it on like a handheld game or like
Right.
a stand-up console arcade game or something like that,
Right.
or what was to come, which was, well, they already had Atari and stuff like that and Sega, like you mentioned. But, you know, all these are different licenses. And this guy, Stein, was just kind of going full steam ahead without even owning these licenses, basically saying like, hey, I'll get these, don't worry.
So, yeah. So at the time, there was another guy that we've got to introduce, and then we'll take a break after that. His name was Henk Rogers, Henk Rogers. He was Dutch-born, but grew up in America. And at the time, he was working for a company called Bulletproof Software, a Japanese company. And his job was to find games to basically develop for the Japanese market. And one day in 1988, he was at CES in Las Vegas looking for ideas. And one of the ideas that he came across, Chuck, was Tetris.
What a pro. We'll be right back.
This is SYSK. The purpose of this record is the purpose of...
Hey everybody, we're here to talk to you about Wayfair, who believes that spaces should be functional, they should be comfortable, they should be well designed, and they can be well designed by you with their help.
Your updated space should feel more comfortable, inviting, and practical for everyday use. And we're talking about outdoor seating. We're talking about grills. We're talking about major appliances. If you need storage solutions, Wayfair can help you out. Patio lighting, rugs, decor. It is your one-stop shop for home.
Yeah, I mean, it's getting nice out, so it's time to think about living outdoors for the next few months. And Wayfair knows that outdoor furniture, it's heavy, it's intimidating to assemble. So Wayfair has stepped in and said, we're going to handle the hard part so you don't have to.
That's right. You can shop Wayfair Verified, your shortcut to the good stuff. And that means their team of product specialists are going to vet everything by hand using a 10-point inspection, testing things like, quality materials, functionality, and features, and even how long it takes to build that piece of furniture. And the overall experience save time, reduce hassle, and improved convenience.
Patio season is here, and these deals won't last. So head to wayfair.com right now to get your outdoor space ready for way less. That's WAYFAIR.com.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Running a business is hard enough, so why make it harder with a dozen different apps that don't talk to each other? One for sales, another for inventory, a separate one for accounting. Before you know it, you are drowning in software instead of growing your business.
And this is where Odoo comes in. Odoo is the only business software you'll ever need. It's an all-in-one, fully integrated platform that handles everything: CRM, accounting, inventory, e-commerce, HR, and more. No more app overload, no more juggling logins, just one seamless system that makes work easier.
And the best part, Odoo replaces multiple expensive platforms for a fraction of the cost. It's built to grow with your business, whether you're just starting out or already scaling up. Plus, it's easy to use, customizable, and designed to streamline every process. So you can focus on what really matters, which is running your business. Thousands of businesses have made the switch. So why not you?
Try Odoo for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com. If you're always on the lookout for a great audiobook, or you just want help figuring out what to listen to next, there's a podcast you should know about. It's called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, and it's hosted by Cal Penn.
That's right. Each episode takes a closer look at some of the most talked about new audiobooks on Audible, spanning a wide range of genres, from sci-fi and literary fiction to rom-coms, thrillers, and comedy.
Yeah, Cal is joined by guests who dig into what these stories are about, what makes them stand out as audiobooks, and why they're connecting with listeners right now. So if you're looking for your next listen, this is a great place to start. Listen to Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts. Okay, so when we last saw Henk Rogers, he was wandering around CES with a pennant that said Bulletproof's #1, eating some popcorn.
Yeah.
And he had just stopped in front of this booth that was playing Tetris, and he dropped his popcorn and his pen in
Yeah.
at the same time, his mouth agog. And he was like, I have to own this game. Like, we have to buy this game. And he wanted it himself, so much so that he talked his in-laws into putting up their house for collateral so that he could have seed money to buy the rights to this game. And he actually traveled to Moscow. And this guy is where the Cold War stuff really starts to kind of come alive, because he showed up in Moscow and was like, let's make a deal. And they're like, that's not how it works, spy.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, at this point, he did make a deal with Spectrum Holobyte for the Nintendo Famicom console.
Right.
And, this is all early days. So the Game Boy had not quite debuted. That launched in 89. So the timing of it was really, really key, because as we'll see, the Game Boy is where it really, really took off. But he made a deal, sort of a handshake deal with the president of Nintendo of America to put Tetris in Game Boys. And he was like, hey, listen, you're selling these Game Boys, you're including Mario, which the boys love. But if you want to appeal to everyone and sell more of those, include Tetris. And I think that led to like 35 million units of Tetris Game Boy being sold.
Yeah, it was essentially the same thing when Apple loaded that YouTube album onto their iPhones. It was one of the greatest commercial successes of all time. This is basically the predecessor of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So you said he was sort of bumbling.
I can't leave you with that. That was a joke. Like, that was a huge flop.
Oh,
Everybody hated that just being like loaded on their phone. And apparently you couldn't get it off either.
Oh, no. I remember that.
Mm-hmm.
I think I was one of the few people that was like, oh, nice. I like you too. Thanks for the song.
Thanks, suckers, for the free album that I paid $1,000 for.
Goodness me. So you mentioned that he was sort of bumbling around Moscow, and they were like, hey, no thanks, spy. He eventually did get that meeting with Elorg, because he's still trying to secure all these different, license rights. And they weren't too pleased with him, but luckily for him, Pajitnov was in that meeting, and he liked Rogers, and they became buddies, and that helped them secure the rights on the Game Boy.
Yeah, because at the time, all of a sudden, there was a huge competition in Moscow for getting these rights, because it became clear Stein didn't own the rights, therefore Maxwell didn't own all of the rights. Nintendo didn't own all the rights yet, so Rogers was there, like, making these deals, and it is questionable whether he would have come out on top had Pajitnov not taken a shine to him. But he did, and like you said, he talked the head of Nintendo America into installing the game on every unit. And yeah, when you sell 35 million units of something, it's suddenly popular. That's when it finally blew up in the United States, because again, it had been around for a few years by then, but when the Game Boy came out with it, that was it for Tetris. And also, Nintendo was like, we're the Tetris platform now from now on.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, I did go to eBay. I haven't picked the one out yet, but there are plenty of Game Boys with Tetris cartridges. They're supposedly in good shape. So
that's awesome.
I'm definitely looking forward to that. Although Emily says, I still have mine somewhere. I was like, all right, I'll just get it on eBay.
You're like, how hard can you look for that?
Yeah, and they range in price. I think, some of the more dubious ones are like $30 to $40.
Right.
And I just wonder about the stickiness of buttons and pads and things.
Yeah.
But the one that's like 110, I feel like is probably a safer bet, but who knows?
Yeah, you got to look out for that 40-year-old caramel sauce.
Oh, God. And cotton candy and stuff like that. But the Game Boy one, though, the reason I bring that up again is because that's the one with that classic Type A theme song.
Oh, yeah.
From sound engineer Hirokazu Tanaka, which is hard to believe, but it's a Russian folk song called Koro Bianiki, which means peddlers. And you can hear like a symphony doing that in a Russian symphony, and you're like, oh, wait a minute. I know that song.
That's the Tetris song.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is, and it's if you haven't heard it in a while, go just look up Tetris Type A theme on YouTube, and it'll take you back for sure.
Yeah.
So there was one more challenge for the rights to Tetris, and that ended up being between Nintendo and Atari. Like I said, Nintendo was like, we're the platform for Tetris, just try it. And Atari was like, we're going to try you so much. We're so confident that we're going to produce hundreds of thousands of copies of this game. And a judge was like, nope, it's Nintendo's. And Atari had to eat the cost of all those.
Yeah. The judge was like, don't you have a burial site for the ET
Yeah, exactly.
around here?
Can you repurpose that?
So they've sold a lot of these, but marketing of the game initially was a challenge. It didn't have like cutting edge graphics or anything. You really had to play it to kind of understand how addictive it was.
Mm-hmm.
So just looking at the game and selling the game was tough. So they sort of weirdly at the time really leaned into the Cold War and the Soviet stuff. They reskinned it to have St. Basil's Cathedral in Moscow on the title screen. They had all sorts of little Russian Easter eggs in there. At trade shows, they had Reagan and Gorbachev impersonators like playing against each other and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that actually helped sell the game as this weird import from behind the Iron Curtain. Like, what are they doing over there?
Right. Yeah, that was funny. There was a New York Times article on it from, I don't know, I think 86 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And they threw a little bit of shade. They're like, it's kind of impressive. This is the first software from the Soviet Union being sold in the U.S., which indicates that their computers are finally catching up to American computers.
These IBM PCs.
Right. So
funny.
Tetris indisputably ended the Cold War and brought down the Soviet Union single-handedly. There were no other factors involved whatsoever. And like we said, the rights for the game stayed with the USSR for the first 10 years. And then finally, when they came back around to, or for the first time, I guess, to Pajitnov, he just started lighting 10 cigars at once with $100 bills because this was already just a worldwide smash hit. And now all of the royalties were going to start to come to him.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't try to fight this early on. Like, if it was in the United States, somebody would have taken him to court probably over the fact that I was your employee at the time, but blah, blah, blah. Like, he knew that was a lost cause. So he never even tried to fight back. And I think wanted to get in line as a good Russian state employer, and was like, okay, 10 years, you've got it. And, turns out patience is a virtue because he made, he did pretty well on this thing in the long run.
Right. So these guys started drifting over to the United States, and there's a really sad, kind of appendix to this whole thing. In 1998, Pokilko, who was the psychologist who was involved in developing it, found that he was being looped out now that the rights were coming to Pajitnov and Rogers, who made a separate deal without him. He was running a relatively unsuccessful software company and apparently killed his wife and son with a knife, and then killed himself with a knife, and which is a weird enough thing that there's still today conspiracy theories that he was killed by Russian mobsters or the government or something like that. But a couple of autopsies confirmed, no, this was suicide. It's really, really sad. And just a weird little bizarre kind of side thing to be tacked on to, what's just widely considered such a fun pastime around the world.
Yeah. There's a documentary or docuseries rather called The Tetris Murders about this. And I did not watch it, but I looked more into this, and I'm not conspiracy minded at all, but this seems very, very hinky. There were 3 murder weapons to kill his wife and kid and himself. There were 2 different hammers and a hunting knife. Mm-hmm. Multiple murder weapons is just strange. There were documents burned on a grill. Everybody to a person they talked to were like, this guy was a super good dude, loving father and husband. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no way he could have done something this brutal. Apparently, the blood spatter analysis made no sense at all. And there were other people that were asked to sign off that were like, I'm not going to sign off on this.
Wow.
Like, there's no way this guy slit his own throat. Look at the blood. And they also found a note that they initially said was not a suicide note, but they would eventually say it was. And it said, I've been eaten alive, Vladimir. Just remember that I exist, the devil. Just very strange.
It is.
So I don't know. A lot of this stuff doesn't add up. So I'm not really sure what the deal is.
No, for sure. I think the one criticism is that the docuseries doesn't actually say why anybody would have wanted to kill him and his family. But yes, everything I read.
Say Russian mob. That's all you need to say.
Yeah. Yeah, it does kind of explain a lot. So like you said, there's a movie, I think it's on Apple TV, that came out last year about this that you can see. I can't
Yeah.
remember what it's called. Tetris something, right?
I think it's just Tetris.
Oh, okay.
It's
Appropriate.
got what's his name, the Kingsman,
Edgerton.
Taron Egerton. Yeah,
I think of him more as Elton John.
I do too. I like that guy. I think he's a very talented actor.
Oh, God, I hope he's not a monstrous scumbag.
I do too. We walk that fine line of like saying something nice about someone. Are they a monstrous scumbag, or say something bad about someone and will this get back to them?
Right. Yeah, you have a good track record of calling it, though.
Well, I got one. I got Jared back in the day. That's about it.
That was a mega one. That was a huge
was a
whale
good
of the
guess.
land. Nobody was thinking that about that guy.
Speaking of that guy, should we take another break or should we talk about gameplay first?
We'll take another break, it feels like.
All right, let's break and we'll talk about how you actually play this thing right after this.
This is SYSK. The purpose of this record is to the purpose of
Running a business is hard enough, so why make it harder with a dozen different apps that don't talk to each other? One for sales, another for inventory, a separate one for accounting. Before you know it, you are drowning in software instead of growing your business.
And this is where Odoo comes in. Odoo is the only business software you'll ever need. It's an all-in-one, fully integrated platform that handles everything: CRM, accounting, inventory, e-commerce, HR, and more. No more app overload, no more juggling logins, just one seamless system that makes work easier.
And the best part, Odoo replaces multiple expensive platforms for a fraction of the cost. It's built to grow with your business, whether you're just starting out or already scaling up. Plus, it's easy to use, customizable, and designed to streamline every process. So you can focus on what really matters, which is running your business. Thousands of businesses have made the switch. So why not you?
Try Odoo for free at odoo.com. That's ODOO.com. If you're always on the lookout for a great audiobook, or you just want help figuring out what to listen to next, there's a podcast you should know about. It's called Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, and it's hosted by Cal Penn.
That's right. Each episode takes a closer look at some of the most talked about new audiobooks on Audible, spanning a wide range of genres, from sci-fi and literary fiction to rom-coms, thrillers, and comedy.
Yeah, Cal is joined by guests who dig into what these stories are about, what makes them stand out as audiobooks, and why they're connecting with listeners right now. So if you're looking for your next listen, this is a great place to start. Listen to Earsay, the Audible and iHeart Audiobook Club, on the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcasts.
Dell PCs with Intel Inside are built for the moments that matter, for the moments you plan and the ones you don't. Built for the busy days that turn into all-night study sessions, the moment you're working from a cafe and realize every outlet's taken.
Yeah, the times you're deep in your flow and the absolute last thing you need is an auto update throwing off your momentum. That's why Dell builds tech that adapts to the way you actually work. Built with a long-lasting battery so you're not scrambling for the closest outlet, and built-in intelligence that makes updates around your schedule, not in the middle of it.
That's right. They don't build tech just for tech's sake. They build it for you. Find technology built for the way you work at Dell.com/Dell PCs. Built for you.
Okay, so if you want to play, if you've never played Tetris, a lot of this kind of assumes with that many hundreds of millions of games sold, plus many more people that played that didn't actually buy it, that most people have probably played this game. But the idea is that, you have this horizontal screen and these different shaped blocks are coming down. And when you do a complete horizontal line across with these different shaped blocks, that line will disappear. And all this time, more blocks are falling and falling and falling. Mm-hmm. And the key is to get to different levels by, completing more and more lines. And they start going faster and faster. Mm-hmm. And you can spin them to get them into position and into place. And in different versions of the game, you can see what's coming, sometimes just one, sometimes a few. And there are other variations along the years. But that's the basic gameplay of Tetris. It's a very, very simple game.
That was the best, basic, most succinct explanation of Tetris I have ever heard.
Was it good, though?
For sure, yeah.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying. It was the best.
Oh, I just thought you meant it was short and that'll suffice.
No, I thought it was great.
Okay, thanks.
Because you could have gone on longer, but why? You said it all just precisely. So
All
it
right.
was very economical and efficient, and I appreciate that.
Thank you, friend.
There's also multiplayer versions, which means that there's a lot of competitive Tetris championships. There's one in particular, and the Classic Tetris World Championship, I believe, is the biggest of them all. But some of the things that they've come up with, so Tetris was just basically the same for a very long time, and then when the rights reverted to Pajitnov, they started experimenting with it, making it a little different, some of which you included in there. But one of the things that is pretty cool about multiplayer play is that when you start doing things like if you clear multiple lines at once, it's a Tetris combo, you can be rewarded by garbage being thrown to your player screen. And that'll be, a few lines, sometimes a bunch of lines that have like a really inconvenient break in the line, which makes it really hard to clear. And also it just pushed their regular screen up that much closer to the top, which is where you die if you can die in Tetris. So there's like a lot of like kind of interesting things that they did with this really basic game that didn't seem like it could be improved upon without really just being unnecessary. They seem to have come up with some really good ideas for it.
Yeah, and I think, did you mention that a true Tetris is when you get, what is it? I guess 4 levels at once?
Yeah, when you throw down that coveted eye piece. And
so satisfying.
And yeah, exactly.
Oh, man.
That is a Tetris.
Oh, boy, that's a satisfying. I remember that feeling. I can't wait to get that Game Boy. Should we talk about the pieces? Because you found some kind of cool stuff, as did Livia, that I never knew, is that these pieces have names.
Yeah, there's a bunch of slang names. There's a Tetris wiki that has a bunch of slang names, but somebody posted on Reddit a few years ago the original Nintendo manual for it, and it has like the official Nintendo names. So we'll give you all of them or some of them.
All right. The J and the shape also refers to, or the letter refers to sort of the shape of the piece, right?
Yes.
Okay. So the J is the blue one. I never knew that there were colors because on Game Boy, obviously, it was not colored in the initial ones.
Mm-hmm.
But the blue one can also be called the Gamma or the GE or GE, or I think the official, the Blue Ricky.
The Blue Ricky, yeah, that's the official one.
What
and
else?
Then there's an Orange Ricky. That's the L piece, which is basically the mirror of the J. It's also called Jed or right elbow. Orange Ricky, you can't improve on that. It sounds like a disgusting drink.
Yeah.
Like a creamsicle
cruise ship drink.
Gin Ricky.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, boy. You might be onto something. What is a Gin Ricky?
It's gin, lime, and I think a little sweetener, maybe. It's really simple. I think club soda. Yeah. It's a pretty old drink.
So kind of like a gin and tonic but with soda instead of tonic and a little sweet?
Yeah. Yes, I believe so. I think that's a pretty good description. Man, you're just killing it with the descriptions today.
How about this? The yellow cube, it's a square.
Oh, my God. Genius.
That's known, you can call it a square or the zero or the Smash Boy.
Yeah, that's the official name, is Smash Boy. Can't improve on that one either. The S is the green piece. It's the right-facing zigzag piece.
Uh-huh.
Some people call it the right zigzag or right squiggly, but the official Nintendo name was the Rhode Island Z.
That sounds like a sex position.
It does, for sure. Wow, that's great.
Z, there is a Z, is the mirror, the red mirror of the Z, and that is, you can call it a lightning bolt or the left dog or the left snake or the Cleveland Z, also what I said before.
Yeah. It's just more disappointing than the Rhode Island.
Oh.
There's the T piece that actually is used in the Tetris logo. And the T is called the T-Wee.
The T-Wee, okay. And then that I called it the I-beam, but that's the cyan 4-line clearer. That's also the one that if you put it in the wrong place, it can really screw you. But that can produce that full Tetris. You can call it the stick, the line, the Slim Jim, but the long skinny one.
The Hero is the official name for it, though.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm. That's where that song, that Enrique Iglesias song, comes from. It's about Tetris. A little known fact.
So, did you mention the championship?
No, yes, I did. The Classic Tetris World Championship. That's the big one. And they still use the original NES version, the one that I played and Yumi played and everybody but you played, apparently.
That's right, which is a key distinction when it comes to competing, I guess, because I would have been pretty lost. Although there's no way I wasn't like competition level. I was just okay at it. But
dude, competition level is insane
Yeah.
when it comes to Tetris.
no, when you watch like real time speeds of what these people are doing, it's crazy. Like that's when I'm like, I mean, I'm way done by the time they start going that fast.
Yeah, because the Nintendo controller, the original one, the rectangle with two buttons, like two red buttons, and then a D-pad, the directional pad, like it works for certain kinds of games and certain kind of movements, usually with two thumbs. But with Tetris, the big part is to move the piece around, and you want to move a lot of pieces really fast and move on to the next one, which
As
means
you're spinning them.
Yes, which means that you have to press the D-pad really fast, and the D-pad was not made for being pressed fast. So like you said, people have come up with some amazing techniques for competitive play.
Yeah, if you're trying to get something going down that's coming down very, very fast, all the way over and fit it on the left side of the screen, and it's dropped on the right, you got to hit that D-pad like go, 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 go. And you can only do that like, there's humans can only go so fast until they invented hyper tapping, which was about 2011, according to Livia's research, which I found that to be pretty much true. Early 2010s, it checks out. That means you're like, you're sort of vibrating your thumb actually instead of pressing it. You're sort of vibrating, you're like flexing your bicep. So you're not fully releasing and pressing. It's just like a hyper press, a hyper tap.
Right. So if you're trying that right now and you're like, I don't see how that works. Apparently, a very, very few gifted individuals can actually hyper tap, which means that hyper tappers dominated competition for a good 10 or so years, about 10 years. There was a kid named Joseph Seeley, Joseph, and he was 16 at the time back in 2018. He reached level 31. I don't think we said just using like normal movements on the NES controller, no one makes it past level 29.
Yeah.
You just don't. This kid made it to level 31 using hyper tapping in 2018. He made it to level 35 in 2020. So at the time, that makes him the greatest Tetris player of all time to that point.
Yeah. So then in 2020 comes along a guy named Christopher Martinez, also known as Cheese, capital C, capital Z.
Yeah, I think the capital Z makes it cheesy.
Oh, you're probably right.
That's my take on it.
No, I think you're totally right.
Okay. Well, we should say Christopher Martinez, a.k.a. Cheese, a.k.a. Cheesy, and we'll get it in there somewhere.
So he introduced a technique called rolling. It's also called fly hecking, Heccing, after a guy named Hector Fly Rodriguez, who developed this technique on arcade game consoles, not even for Tetris, just on arcade game console, like, how to press the buttons faster. And I'm going to do a little audio, Josh, if you'll allow.
Yeah, please.
Because did you see how this was done? Did you see Hector's fingers?
I did.
It's amazing. This guy has they look like breakdancing fingers. They're just so fluid. But it's if you imagine like a stand-up arcade game and those big round buttons, if you want to press that really fast, you can go tap, 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 tap with one finger, or you can do this with your four fingers.
Very nice.
Did that come through, you think?
Good Foley work.
So that's what he's doing. He's using all four fingers to, kind of like the I'm bored thing when you do that on a table. He did that on a button and found boy, that's even faster than the fastest hyper tapping. And Cheese, I don't know, stole that, but he got that from him. So what you do in the case of a Nintendo, because they have tiny little buttons, you can't do that with your four fingies.
No.
You hold the D-pad down just enough for it to engage, and then you do that to the back of the thing, and it essentially is making your D-pad move that fast because it's already engaged, and you're going really fast.
Right, to the back of the controller, right?
To the back of the controller, making the back of the controller essentially one large button.
Yeah, and it's just kind of jumping up and hitting your thumb. That was another
Yeah.
great explanation, Chuck.
Man, that's a tough one because you really got to see it in action.
But you did it great. Hyper tapping, the best hyper tappers can hit the button about 7 times a second, which is
Okay.
mind-boggling.
What about a roller?
With rolling, people like Cheesy can hit it 20 times a second.
What?
20 times a second. And Cheesy obviously was starting to reach new heights as well. He's, I believe, still one of the premier Tetris players in the world.
Oh, I'm
And
sure.
it started to get people like between Joseph Saley and Christopher or Cheesy, like they were like, okay, people can get past level 29. How many levels do you think there are in Tetris? And of course, there's not like some point where the Nintendo developers were like, okay, that's it. You won the game at level 100. Just like many other games, they just let it go and go and go. And then eventually the game just stops functioning. There's some 0 that doesn't get carried or some number
Yeah.
resets. You reach some crazy bit configuration and the thing just crashes. But that's just never been done with Tetris because they figured out using bots that it was somewhere between level 155 and the mid 200s, right?
Mm-hmm.
29 is where the best normal players max out. In the 30s is where Joseph Saley was maxing out. This is like up to like 250. And there was a kid who
Oh, man.
beat the game, Chuck. A human, not a bot, a kid. I've seen him with my own eyes on the TV, and
Yeah.
he was not a bot.
How old was he? What's his name? Give this kid his due.
He was 13 years old at the time. This was December of 2023, so about a year ago. He was in Oklahoma. His name was Willis Gibson. Blue Scooty was his player name.
Yeah. Are you going to drop the level?
I think
'Cause
you
I-
should.
All right. This guy, after playing for 38 minutes, hit level 157 and crashed 5 times as much as the best players in the world
Mm-hmm.
and crashed the system. And did I say system?
That's how excited you are.
It
About
was
it.
very weird. I was. And everybody was going crazy over this kid except for Pagitnov, who said, yes, well, you beat the 40-year-old version of game. Nice accomplishment.
Right. Yeah. He said that Tetris itself, the pure, like the theoretical version of the game, you could never beat it.
Yeah, I get it, I guess. But come on, man.
I know. I thought that too. Like it's a 13-year-old you're talking to, buddy.
All right. Should we talk a little? We'll finish with Tetris on the brain because we started the show talking about Tetris, getting into your dreams, getting into when you're packing your car. I still call that Tetrising, as do a lot of people when you're packing stuff,
Yeah.
packing moving trucks.
Mhm.
It's kind of the vernacular now, but it does have very distinct impacts on your brain, right? And usually in a good way.
Yeah. Again, we said it was called the Tetris effect. There was a guy named Jeffrey Goldsmith who was a writer who was known for coining. I don't know if he coined a term or just was the first to apply it to Tetris, but he called Tetris a pharmatronic, which is like an addictive drug, but in software form.
Yeah.
And Pagitnov, ever the contrarian, said like, no, it's more like an earworm.
Right. What is it with this guy?
I don't know. He likes to be right, I think. But so people have taken wide note of the fact that Tetris seems to be way more addictive on way more people than just about any other game. And so people have kind of investigated what the deal is behind that. I know at least one writer chalked it up to what's called the Zeigarnik effect.
That is super cool. That was coined by a psychologist in Russia, Bluma. Zeigarnik.
Mm-hmm. Bloomer,
Zeigarnik.
what a great first name.
I think it's Zeigarnik.
Okay. Well, you know me
This is
and
in
EIs and European pronunciations.
I know. This is in the 1930s, and she noticed that at restaurants, when a server had a large table of like, let's say 12 people, they could remember their orders, which was remarkable. But then when it came time to deliver food to the table, they had forgotten them. So the idea here is that with the Zeigarnik effect is that the brain really, really wants to store information about a task that isn't complete yet.
Right.
Like taking an order for 12, or in the case of Tetris, they're exploiting it by like constantly creating a little unfinished mission to create a line of blocks that you get fulfilled, and then they drop another one. So it's just triggering this constant feeling of satisfaction because you're completing these tasks by completing these lines over and over and over.
And then after you complete one, you have another task to do. So your brain is activated again. Like you said, moment by moment, over and over and over again.
Pretty cool.
It is super cool. There was another guy named Richard Heyer, or I'm sure in your pronunciation, Heyer, who in 1991, in 91 at UC Irvine, he actually scanned the brains of Tetris players. And he found that the brain is much more engaged when you're new to Tetris, which is probably a reason why it became such a popular game. It just sucks in new players. And that you start using way more energy in your brain when you start playing Tetris. And then it kind of goes down over time as you get better. And that apparently is when most people stop playing Tetris after a while, when they get really good at it, because the brain's no longer being challenged like it was originally, thanks to the Zeigarnik effect.
Yeah. There have been other studies, of course. There was one that found that Tetris may reduce the strength of cravings. This was in 2015 by the British and Australian psychologists. British and Australian. Is that a band?
I
thought that was the name of it. Yeah. It's like a British Sea Power, one of my favorite bands.
Right.
So just by psychologists in Britain and Australia, I think.
Got it.
Basically where they used iPods to check in with undergraduates 7 times a day to see if they are craving drugs, food, sex, and other things.
They just said yes.
Yeah, that you might crave. Yeah, they're like, we're undergrads, duh.
Mm-hmm.
And playing Tetris for 3 minutes lessened the cravings. I am curious if that's just because they're preoccupied with it. They argued that it was effective because cravings involve working memory and visualizing the object of desire. So maybe that is it. You're occupied with another cognitive task so much that you're not thinking about the heroin you want to do in your desk drawer.
Right. And one of the great things about cravings is if you can write it out or distract yourself or something like that, when you come back from that task, your brain very rarely goes right back to the craving.
Yeah.
That's amazing. They also figured out, for probably the exact same reasons or similar reasons, they believe that it can prevent PTSD from forming, which is a little weird. It's like, you just had a traumatic experience, quick, play Tetris.
Right.
More likely, it will help you treat PTSD, very similar to EMDR, where you watch like a pen or a ball on a screen or something like that. This is playing Tetris while you're recounting your traumatic experience. Your memory recatalogs it to something far less traumatic, thanks to your working memory being occupied while you're doing this other thing too. We should do an episode on EMDR someday. It's just insane how effective it can be.
Yeah, for sure. I'd be way into that. They also found that potentially your brain might physically change. And then if you play Tetris enough, you might have a thicker cerebral cortices and more flexible cortical matter. So maybe your cognitive functioning and memory could improve. Although there have been other studies, weirdly, this is very strange to me, that found that playing Tetris does not improve things like spatial cognition. And you would think that's the one thing it would help with.
Yeah, I think it still helps with visuospatial arrangement, like you said, packing a car.
Oh, okay.
But it doesn't, you can't see something and be like, what's right side up for this shape that I'm showing you a picture of? You can't just immediately say it should be to the left or something like that. Just that specific thing. I think it still does help, although I didn't see any studies. It's just, how could it not,
I agree. Studies be damned.
You got anything else on Tetris?
I have nothing else. I can't wait for that Game Boy. I'll report back with pictures at Chuck the Podcaster Instagram.
Oh, nice.
I got to put those kudzu pictures up. Hadn't done it.
Oh, yeah, you need to, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, you got to. You put it on the podcast, you got to deliver, Chuck.
I have to deliver, Josh.
Well, since Chuck says he has to deliver, and that was in agreement to me saying he has to deliver, obviously, we've unlocked listener mail.
This is a timely one because our bet date has passed. And we got a few of these from people. Hey, guys, I'm from Brazil, and I started listening to your show during the pandemic. Mm-hmm. But I love those older episodes, and I was recently listening to one from November 2019, Augmented Reality, coming soon. At the beginning of the episode, Josh and Clark. We get that a lot. That's okay. I'm sure my tombstone will say Charles W. Chuck Clark Bryant.
I will see to it that it does if I outlive you.
Well, I'm going to be between you and Yumi, so you can constantly just be talking over me.
Okay, good.
That's what we should do. You should do Yumi, me, you, Emily.
Okay.
And then we're not going to talk about pets or children because that's too sad.
What if we just did like a mass burial together and save some money?
Oh, yeah. Or a sky burial. Throw us all up in a mountain and let the crows eat us or whatever. Vultures.
Yeah, but I'm sure shipping our cadavers would be kind of expensive.
That's true. All right. Well, we'll work this out.
Okay.
Anyway, Josh and Clark made a bet that in 5 years, augmented reality glasses would be all the rage because Josh said that he thought they would be commonplace by Halloween 2024. Here we are, Josh. What do you think?
That doesn't sound like something I'd say in retrospect.
Well, Elisa says, I think Chuck won this one. It is funny, though. Recently, someone I know saw me, had my camera because it was an event. I was taking pictures. Mm-hmm. And I said, can I take your picture? And he said, sure. And I took his picture. Then he went, now can I take yours? And he touched his glasses and looked at me and walked away. And I was like, that dude's wearing photography glasses.
You didn't chase after him?
No, I knew the guy. Those Meta Ray-Bans that you can, like, whatever, interact online through your glasses. Basically what they're... Yeah, that's what you thought would be commonplace, I think.
You didn't chase after him and say, like, hey, I never said yes?
No, I didn't.
Well,
just thought I'd expose it here.
There you go. Now we know. You want to say his name and street address?
I do not.
All right. Well, since Chuck told an anecdote about an anonymous friend using Google Glasses and I lost a bet, then we have to sign off by thanking whoever wrote this email. Who was it again?
Elisa from Brazil.
Oh, that's right. Thanks a lot, Elisa from Brazil. We appreciate it big time. Thank you for pointing out that I lost a bet to Chuck. Hopefully there was no money on it, was there? Do you know?
No money as far as I'm concerned.
And if you want to be like Elisa from Brazil, you can email us as well at stuffpodcast@iheartradio.com.
Stuff You Should Know is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.
Geico presents a 30-second podcast between your podcast. Today's story is shared by one of our listeners. It's called Betrayed by Bill. It was in that moment I caught who was staring back at me in betrayal, or more like what? My insurance bill. With trembling hands, I grabbed my phone and switched to Geico, saving about $900 in the process, and never to be betrayed again. Now that was bloody riveting.
It feels good when the story ends with savings. It feels good to Geico.
Mom, can I have Lingo Kids? Dad, Lingo Kids, please!
When did we become the Lingo Kids house?
No idea. Last week it was dinosaurs. This week it's...
Lingo Kids!
Why Lingo Kids?
Because it's the best thing ever. We can play games with astronauts, wild animals, and superheroes.
With more than 4,000 interactive games, songs, and shows, Lingo Kids is the #1 entertainment platform for young kids.
So, no dinosaurs?
And dinosaurs! Lingo Kids!
Everything kids love. Download it for free.
You know, you could be adored by everyone and still completely ignored by your cat. Trust me, I know. But if you feed your cat Sheba, you can go from being ignored to truly adored in 12 days, guaranteed, or your money back. Sheba has a full menu of products, appetizers, entrees, treats, even a kitten's menu. It's so cute, so Sheba has a product for even the pickiest eater. Like Sheba Puree, it's made with bone broth, their chef-inspired flavors. It's got a smooth and creamy texture that cats love and contains no corn, wheat, soy, or artificial flavors. It's food that your cat's gonna love. To learn more, check out Sheba.com. That's SHEBA.com.
This is an iHeart podcast. Guaranteed Human.